premiere to the African Cup of Nations 2019, which this summer is going to be coming live from Egypt in the 32nd edition of the AFCON tournament. And I tell you now, it is going to be massive, quite literally, because this summer will be the biggest African Cup of Nations tournament in history, with an increased 24 teams taking part, and that's what today's video is all about. 24 teams, we're going to be breaking them down nation by nation, every single one discussed in a bit of detail as well. It's the ultimate guide to the African Cup of Nations, and it's coming right up. Let's do this. The tournament will begin on June the 21st, with the final coming to us on July the 19th. So very nearly there, a full month of football to look forward to there from the African nations. And the really exciting thing for me coming into this tournament there, it's a summer tournament. Here, it's going to be played after the league season has ended in the summer. Everybody is going to be ready, is going to be fit and firing here in this tournament. Because previously, you would have seen this take place in January, in the middle of the season. You get some players not turning up, you get some players half fit. Here, it's a summer tournament, all guns blazing, everybody is going to be ready, and it should be fantastic. And I think that's absolutely right here, because a tournament like this, the African Cup of Nations, it's got a very, very rich history. There's so many good nations, so many impressive players here that are going to be heading to the tournament this summer, and it shouldn't just be crammed in the middle of the season and just like an afterthought. This deserves to be a standalone main competition here, a big, big international prize, and certainly this time round, with 24 teams increased from the previous 16, it's going to be very, very exciting indeed. There's going to be 6 groups of 4 teams making up the group stage, which the top 2 from each of those groups will be progressing to the knockout stage, and the remaining 4 places there in the round of 16 stage will be made up of the 4 best placed third place teams from the group stage. So 6 groups, 4 teams each. We're going to be starting right here with the host nation in Group A. Let's get this party started. And so, first and foremost, Egypt here, the host nation, and without doubt, one of the big, big favourites to win the entire competition this summer. After all, we are talking here about the most successful nation in the history of the African Cup of Nations, with their most recent success coming 9 years ago, back in 2010, where their legendary midfielder, Hassan, who won the Player of the Tournament award that year. And I really do have to give here a special mention to Hassan himself, who made an incredible 184 appearances for his country during a 17-year period there for Egypt, and he was actually part there of 4 African Cup of Nations successes for Egypt over the years. But since his retirement in 2012, Egypt have been searching for a new hero, a new pioneer of their international football, and this summer, the pressure, the expectation, the weight there of glory, it'll be on the shoulders of Mohamed Salah. Fresh from his Champions League victory with Liverpool, Salah doing fantastic things at club football level along with the national team, and Salah he'll be hoping to crown another impressive season with a major trophy for his country, and really, he wants that. He really, really does. And I think we're going to see here a really motivated Mohamed Salah, because you think back to his last season, the last Champions League final that he played, it ended badly for him. He got injured in that game. He was then affected, of course, at the World Cup. He wasn't 100% fit. He was really, really trying to put on a show. He was trying to get out there for Egypt, but he wasn't fit. That was absolutely clear at the 2018 World Cup. And I thought what we're going to see now is Salah in a really good mood. He's just won the Champions League. He avenged that defeat from last season. And now, coming into this tournament, he's going to be fully fit. And I believe fully ready, surrounded by a very strong Egyptian side. Alongside Egypt in Group A is the Democratic Republic of Congo, who could be very, very tricky opponents for Egypt here and the rest of their competitors in Group A, because I have to say, you look at the squad of players they've got, they're bringing to the tournament, and there is some really exciting names here that you'll certainly recognise. You look at their attacking options in particular, and Cedric Bakambu will be a real threat at this tournament. I think there could be one of the stars of this entire tournament here in Egypt, and along with Yannick Bolasie as well, a tricky winger who may be 30 now, he may be getting on his career, but he's still capable of some magical moments. There's Britta Sombalonga, who's been a really prolific goal scorer at championship level over the past few years, and Arthur Masuaku of West Ham, Chancellor Mbemba, Yusuf Malumbu, all names that you'll certainly recognise either through Premier League football over the past few years or Premier League football right here and now. And as DR Congo certainly have the tools there right throughout their squad, they've got experience, they've got quality, and I think they could cause some problems here at the AFCON tournament. And now we move on to Uganda, who have never won the African Cup of Nations but did finish as the runners-up back in 1978, and they're not really going to have it easy in this group with Egypt, with DR Congo. It's not going to be easy. There's a lot of quality here in this Group A, but if anything, their last AFCON appearance in 2017, they actually had it even harder with the group they were put in. They had to compete with Egypt once again, Ghana, Mali. They finished bottom of that group, but at the same time, it was a very, very tough campaign for them. Will they fare better this time round in what is, again, a tough group? But don't rule anyone out. And finally, in Group A is Zimbabwe, who'll be making their 4th appearance at the African Cup of Nations this summer, and should they manage to progress here from Group A, it would be the first time in their history they'd reach the knockout rounds, and they'll also be hoping to improve on their 2017 African Cup of Nations tournament after they finished bottom of their group. Much like Uganda, they had it very, very difficult though, competing with Senegal, Tunisia, Algeria. That's such a tough group there. No wonder they struggled in that group, and I'd say here, they're going to be optimistic. They're going to try, they're going to come here, they're going to give it everything they've got, and they're going to be hopeful this time round of picking up more points. On to Group B now, starting with Nigeria, the 3 times African Cup of Nations champions, most recently back in 2013 when they saw off Burkina Faso in the final that year, and certainly this summer, Nigeria have to be viewed as one of the favourites for this competition, because let's not forget, they very nearly caused an upset, a big shock, just last summer at the 2018 World Cup by progressing at the expense of Argentina, but just fell short on that occasion. And to be fair to Nigeria, they've really carried forward all of the optimism, all of the excitement from that World Cup campaign, and in their 7 internationals since the World Cup, they are unbeaten, and they're going to be arriving here in Egypt with high expectations. They've got the likes of Alex Iwobi, who's been heavily involved with Arsenal this season. In their forward line as well, there's so much attacking quality. You've got Odion Igalo, who's always a reliable source of goals, particularly at international level, and a man who's really impressed me in La Liga, a young man here with so much potential, I feel, is Villarreal's 20-year-old Samuel Chukwueze, who I think here could enjoy a breakthrough tournament on the international stage, because we saw in La Liga last season, particularly against Barcelona, he has got so much ability. On now to Guinea alongside Nigeria in Group C, a nation whose hopes will certainly rest upon the fitness of their captain and star man, Naby Keita. Again, a Liverpool player, somebody who's been very key in their successful season this time around, and Naby Keita has been named in Guinea's provisional squad for the tournament, but there still remain a few doubts over his fitness following the injury that he suffered against Barcelona in the semi-final there of the Champions League. Another player that you certainly recognise is Ibrahima Traoré, a man who spent the majority of his career in the Bundesliga, mainly with Augsburg, Stuttgart, and currently with Borussia Mönchengladbach. And after failing to qualify for the 2017 AFCON tournament, Guinea here will be hoping to make up for lost time, but they will be hoping, above all else, that Naby Keita is fit and ready to lead them forward. And now we move on to the first of our debut nations at this year's tournament. It's Madagascar, whose players will be making history for their nation this summer, and it'll be fascinating here to see how they can perform in their first ever outing at the African Cup of Nations. One of their most recognisable players would be Jeremy Morel, who's a 35-year-old defender, very, very experienced, plays his football currently at Lyon in Ligue 1, and I wish them certainly the very best of luck, all the optimism, all of that enthusiasm here, heading into their first ever tournament. What can they do? Go out there and just make a name for yourselves. And right on cue here in Group B, yet another debutant in this tournament. We come on to Burundi now, who will be making history this summer as they take to the field for their first ever AFCON tournament. And you'll certainly recognise their star striker here, one of their most famous players in the squad right now, Saido Berahino, who is once billed as one of the most exciting young strikers in the Premier League when he was coming through at West Brom. He's appeared regularly for the underage England national team, but some poor form and particularly indiscipline at times over the last few years or so has seen him really struggle, and particularly of late he hasn't had much football, but here's to hoping that he can have a tournament to remember here and get back really to doing what he does best, scoring goals, and in this kind of tournament, their first ever, it'll be incredible for Burundi. And now for Group C, starting here with Senegal, and another one, no doubt about it, they are going to be one of the favourites heading into this tournament. But surprisingly though, they have never ever won this competition despite having several really strong teams over the years. Particularly that team they had in 2002 when they finished as the runners-up of the African Cup of Nations after tragically there losing on penalties to Cameroon. And then in the same year, of course, they progressed to the quarter-final of the World Cup in 2002, where it was yet more late heartbreak for Senegal. They conceded a 94th minute golden goal as they lost to Turkey 1-0 at the World Cup. But let's make no mistake here, Senegal will fancy their chances here in this tournament. This is certainly a group they can get out of. They can get there into the knockout stages, and of course, they're going to be led here by yet another Liverpool star, Sadio Mane, who's coming off the back of another brilliant season individually and collectively in the Premier League with Liverpool, and particularly in the latter stages of this competition. It would be fascinating, wouldn't it, to see Egypt, Senegal come together, Mane versus Salah going head to head. But it's not just Mane here for Senegal. They've got some really good players right throughout their team, because at the back they're led by Napoli's Kalidou Koulibaly, one of the world's top centre-backs. In midfield, Everton's ever-impressive Idrissa Gana Gueye, and in particular, along with Mane, there's also Keita Balde and Mbaye Niang and Ismaila Sarr, who are all capable of some magic, some goal scoring, and I do like the look of this Senegal team. And of course, directly alongside Sadio Mane in Group C is Riyad Mahrez's Algeria, who are another very decent side coming into this tournament. It's going to be fascinating to see Mahrez and Mane do battle once again, just as they have been doing right the way through the past season for Man City and Liverpool, going head to head. But again, just like Mane and Senegal, it's not just about Mahrez with this Algeria side. They've got Real Betis' Issa Mandi at the heart of the defence, a very good players, had another good season there under Quique Setien at Real Betis, and there's plenty more attacking quality within, with the likes of Yassine Brahimi, who's played some really excellent football in Portugal over the last few years. With Porto, they've got Islam Slimani up front, who actually spent some time directly alongside Riyad Mahrez at Leicester City. And Algeria here, a nation who reached the last 16 at the 2014 World Cup. In that game, of course, they got knocked out by Germany, but it was such a close affair. They gave them a really good match there, and having won this particular tournament for the first and only time back in 1990, Algeria will be hoping again to give it a good go. Also in Group C will be Kenya, a nation here making their first African Cup of Nations appearance since 2004, where they have never ever progressed past the group stages, and if they do actually get out of this group, it would be a monumental achievement, and they will be relying firmly on their captain and their Champions League finalist, let's not forget, Victor Wanyama, who's consistently impressed in the Premier League over the past few years, first and foremost with Southampton, and of course more recently with Tottenham. And Kenya will be hoping that Victor Wanyama at the centre of midfield there, the hub of their whole team, they'll be hoping he can run that midfield and create some history here for Kenya. And finally, in Group C, it's Tanzania making their long-awaited second appearance at the African Cup of Nations, having waited 39 years for the next tournament after appearing way back in 1980, where they exited at the group stage. And any group with Senegal and Algeria in it is never ever going to be an easy task to get out of. For both Kenya and Tanzania here, they'll be hoping to do their very best to cause some upsets, make some history, and really pull their nations to some phenomenal heights by getting out of this group. And once you do that, a lot can happen. Now then, for Group D, which is being described by many as the group of death in the African Cup of Nations, simply due to the strength of the nations here, starting first and foremost with Morocco, who enjoyed an impressive ending to the World Cup 2018, holding Spain by 2-2, and actually taking the lead in that game in 2 different occasions. And that just shows the kind of pedigree here we can expect from Morocco, who I'd expect once again this summer to be really strong. They got some great talent in their team, starting of course with Hakim Ziyech. What a player. For me, one of the players of the season in that sensational Ajax side. This man is electric. Goals, assists, you name it, he can provide it. And he's really taken his game on so far, scoring a lot more goals, taking responsibility, really showing up on the big occasion. And his teammate too at Ajax, of course, Mazwari, who's a really talented young defender. He's going to be in the squad as well, alongside the experience of Mehdi Benatia, who now plays his football in Qatar. And finally, Youssef El Nesri, who's enjoyed a really impressive season in La Liga. Again, another young forward who's really impressed me, this time with Leganés. And I think he's certainly a striker who has so much potential and could again have a breakout tournament. And with this kind of quality, the good players they've got, the World Cup experience, and again, that togetherness in their team brought by the coach, Hervé Renard, who's been there now for several years, Morocco will fancy their chances of adding to their sole AFCON victory back in 1976. Alongside Morocco, in Group D are the Ivory Coast, 2 times champions of the African Cup of Nations back in 1992, and much more recently, just 4 years ago in 2015, after they saw off Ghana in the final on penalties. And when you think back to Ivory Coast, you think about their legendary players they've had, the likes of Didier Drogba, who's top goal scorer in their history with 65 goals, and of course, Yaya Toure, who's made 101 appearances for his country, and his brother Kolo has actually made even more with 120 caps. But it's not really a case with Ivory Coast of just looking to the past, because they've certainly got the talent here and the quality to look towards the present and especially look towards the future. They've got Tottenham's Serge Aurier is going to be leading the team from the back there. They've got Jean Serry and Frank Kessié in midfield, and in attack there are stunning options. Ivory Coast in attack are so blessed with their options. First and foremost, Wilfried Zaha almost single-handedly kept Crystal Palace in the Premier League at times over the past few seasons, and he's often been linked to the real top of the Premier League in terms of a transfer. They've got Jonathan Kodja, another man certainly to watch in the forward areas. He's just been promoted to the Premier League with Aston Villa, and he's certainly a striker in form right now and capable of providing goals. And then last but not least, Nicolas Pepe. For me, he's actually got the potential here to be one of the players of the entire tournament, not just his team here in the Ivory Coast. He's had a stunning season in Ligue 1 with Lille. He scored 22 times, provided 11 assists, and this man is ready to perform on the big stage this summer. Watch this space. And continuing here with Group D and the strength of this group, we move on now to South Africa, hosts of the 2010 World Cup, of course. Who could forget those kind of occasions? And I think certainly all of us can remember the atmosphere, the feeling, that opening goal of the 2010 World Cup from South Africa. It was electric. I'll never forget that goal. Obviously, no personal allegiance to South Africa, but I love that. I love that feeling. I love that togetherness that everybody had inside the stadium and on the pitch. It really was truly beautiful to witness. And I think really, hopefully we can see once again that kind of excitement, that kind of exuberance out on the field in Egypt this summer. And the 1996 champion South Africa will be hoping they can get out of their group. That's the first thing. It's a very, very difficult group. There's no guarantees here, but it will not be easy, especially given they didn't actually qualify for the previous AFCON tournament back in 2017. But I'm hoping here, like I say, this South African side can come together. We've seen that togetherness. We've seen that unity in previous years. Let's see it again now here. Come together, show all of that quality together, and produce something special. Special for those players, special for South Africa as a whole, and of course the fans. Let's see some of those truly unique celebrations out on the field once again. Let's hope they can do it, and we'll certainly enjoy it. And finally, in Group D, it's Namibia making their third appearance at the AFCON tournament this summer, their first in 11 years, having never reached the knockout stages in their history so far. And to be fair, looking at this group, it is going to be very, very tough, no doubt about it. But hey, like I've said before, every single nation will be up for a fight. You come into this tournament, you qualify, you get here, you bring your team, you bring your fans, everybody's going to be ready here. And believe me, they're not going to give up, not after the first game, not after the second game. You're going to come here, you're going to believe that you can make anything possible, and that's what makes these kind of tournaments so exciting. Now on then to Group E, starting here with Tunisia, the 2004 African Cup of Nations champions Tunisia, who of course appeared at the 2018 World Cup as well, but it was certainly a tough ask for them to get out of a group with Belgium and England in it. They came in third in that group, and I think Tunisia are going to fancy their chance of progressing to the knockout stages once again here at the African Cup of Nations. And in any knockout competition, if you get through to the knockout rounds, you're giving yourself half a chance. If you put your name in the hat there, if you put yourself forward in those knockout rounds, you never know. You really do never know. And I think Tunisia, they've got a wealth of experience in their squad. They've got some good quality players. They've certainly, again, another nation here with a lot of togetherness at major tournaments. And I think get into the knockout rounds and you never, ever know. And the experience they gained at the 2018 World Cup, that will stand them in very, very good stead this summer. Alongside Tunisia, in Group E is Mali, who will be making their 10th AFCON appearance this summer with their highest finish ever, coming in 1972 when they finished as the runners-up that year. And how can we not talk about a legend of the Malian national team, Seydou Keita, who holds the record for the most appearances in their history, and he's their highest ever goal scorer. And for me, one of the most underrated players in Pep Guardiola's sensational Barcelona sides over the years. At Barcelona, he was a really, really unsung hero. He arrived in some big moments. He was a really good player off the bench. Whenever you needed him, whenever you needed to call upon him, Seydou Keita was there. And this time around, though, Mali's hopes will be resting upon the shoulders of Moussa Marega. He's a star striker for them. He's somebody who has a lot of quality going forward. He can deliver goals. He's been very, very good for Porto. And they're another nation here who could cause some upsets, get out of their group, get into the knockout rounds, and you really do never know. And along with Tunisia and Mali in Group E, we'll have another of our debutants here in Mauritania, who will be hoping to make a big first appearance here at the African Cup of Nations, and there's no doubt at all their hopes will be on Bassam, their most capped player and their highest goal scorer. All about him there, bringing that experience, the international setup. He knows it so well. Coming into this tournament, we'll all be coming together and really hoping they can make it here in Egypt a tournament to remember. And finally here, it's Angola, who will be making their first AFCON appearance for 9 years after their quarter-final appearance back in 2010 when they hosted the tournament that year and they very narrowly lost out to Ghana by 1-0. They also reached the quarter-finals of the African Cup of Nations back in 2008 as well, where they lost 2-1 to Egypt on that occasion. And let's not forget here, Angola's qualification for the 2006 World Cup, where they finished third in their group behind Portugal and Mexico. And Angola here will be hoping to recreate some of those fond international memories on the big stage this time around in Egypt this summer. And we move on now to the final group, Group F, starting here with Cameroon. We begin with one of the strong favourites at this tournament, another one of the big nations in Cameroon. They've qualified for more World Cups than any other African nation, and they've won this particular tournament on 5 different occasions. And of course, legendary forward Samuel Eto'o remains the greatest goal scorer in Cameroonian history, with 56 goals for his country, but he will not be involved this summer, and Cameroon's most recent African Cup of Nations success comes back in 2017. They are the reigning champions, and they're going to be looking here to follow that up with another strong showing. They're going to be led this summer by legendary former midfielder Clarence Seedorf, who's the Cameroon head coach. And looking at this squad, there are some very familiar names in there too. Starting straight away in goal, Andre Onana, a man who's played a key part in Ajax's huge success this season, and you'll certainly be familiar with his backup goalkeeper as well, Carlos Kameni, from his days of course at Malaga, when he almost became superhuman when he played against Barcelona. There's no Joel Matip though, or Nicolas Nkulu at the heart of the defence after disputes behind the scenes at national team level does not see them involved here, but there is a place in their provisional squad for former Barcelona B midfielder Wilfried Kapdoum, who's been at Real Betis this season. But up front, when they're in need of some goals, it'll be Porto's Vincent Aboubakar who'll be the man they're relying on this summer to give them some goals, to give them some firepower up front. Another man leading the line there who's been very good at Porto, and hopefully this summer, Cameroon again can enjoy a strong showing. Also in Group F are Ghana, another strong group here I feel, 4 times champions of the African Cup of Nations, but not for a while now. Their most recent success in this tournament coming 37 years ago, back in 1982, and for a nation who's produced some incredible international memories over the past decade or so, that's a big surprise to me that they haven't been successful in this tournament in the last few years. But they're a brilliant team with brilliant fans, and who could forget their success at the 2010 World Cup, reaching the quarter-final stages of that tournament, and within touching distance they were so close to the semi-finals. But of course we all remember that Luis Suarez infamous goal line handball, with Asamoah Gyan unfortunately missing the resulting penalty for Ghana. And despite rumours and some behind the scenes issues, it does seem as though Gyan will be playing for Ghana this summer after the Ghanaian president actually intervened and convinced him to play. He'll be there, Gyan, their leading man, their best ever goal scorer in their history, and of course their most capped player. He could still have a big part to play. He's had some big moments over the past few years. Of course we all know him from his Premier League days. He has quality, no doubt about it, and hopefully we can see another strong showing here from a nation which, when they get going, they can deliver. The third side in Group E are Benin, who've made 3 previous appearances at the African Cup of Nations, but not for 9 years now, so it's certainly a welcome return here for the tournament for Benin, and they'll be hoping once again here to call on their legendary veteran Stéphane Sessegnon, who's Benin's captain, all-time appearance holder, and the joint top goal scorer in their history. And I think you'll all be familiar with Sessegnon, having spent time in his career at PSG, Montpellier, along with very memorable spells as well in the Premier League with Sunderland and West Brom. And at the age of 35 now, Stéphane Sessegnon will be hoping to create yet more memories with his country in potentially one of his last ever tournaments here as a footballer. And last but not least, the 24th team here to cover in the AFCON tournament, it's Guinea-Bissau, who are one of the newer faces at the African Cup of Nations, having made their debut in the last tournament back in 2017. Unfortunately, on that occasion, in their first ever time, they finished bottom of their group, but they were competing alongside Burkina Faso, Cameroon, and the host that year, Gabon. But a stoppage time goal from Joire did give them a historic moment as a country, as a nation. They're going into that tournament. They got their first ever African Cup of Nations point, and in this tournament, they'll want more. That's what happens. You go there, you get your first point, you get your first taste of that glory of this kind of tournament, and you want more. They're going to be coming here more optimistic, more experienced, and hopefully this entire tournament here in Egypt this summer it will be special. So that there is the lowdown on all 24 nations which will be taking part in the African Cup of Nations this summer. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, please do let me know in the comments down below, who are you supporting? Who's your country? Who are you representing? Where are you from? And who are you tipping this summer to do well in this particular tournament? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Enjoy the tournament. But until next time, as always, it's the African Cup of Nations.
We'd be unbreakable.